Hi there guys, my name's John Dean. In today's video we are going to explain how a Final Cut library works using chewing gum. Yes, you've heard me correctly, chewing gum. Let's dive in. Okay guys, let's get into it. So this is our SSD drive. Typically, I guess most of you guys are working on an external SSD drive. So this represents that. Typically we would then create a folder for our client work for whatever project we're working on. So if we're working on a project to do with the circus, we would call it circus project number 1 or something like that. And we would then create a Final Cut Pro library, which is going to be represented by this chewing gum in this illustration. We would put that within the circus project file. We would then typically call that circus project 1 or whatever, or library 1, because Final Cut works in libraries. We would then open that up. Now what we would tend to do is then plug in our camera into our computer, and we would typically, what you might do is either download onto your SSD drive your media assets. So these bits of chewing gum are representing our media assets, or you might put them in your file that you've created, your Circus 01 file that you've just done for your client. And then you would open up Final Cut, you would go to the import window, and you can select leave files in place is the first way of working. Now what that means is, as you're working within your library, in the projects within your library, Final Cut will be linking to wherever these are on your drive. So if this is your Circus 01 drive and this drive is called My SSD drive, then the way Final Cut works is it will be linking to My SSD drive / Circus 01, and it will link to these files there. Now that is all fine. It's a good way to work. It's not a bad way to work, but the only disadvantage is that as soon as you want to archive this whole file, the Circus 01 file in this illustration, onto say another SSD drive, so we call this another SSD drive. So if we lift that there, what will happen is this will freak out. Final Cut will freak out. You'll open it up and it will say missing files, because this drive might be called something else, like My SSD drive number 2, whereas this is called My SSD drive number 1, and your library will be wanting it to be called the same name. So what you'll have to do is either rename this to the exact same thing as this, so Final Cut Pro will link correctly, or alternatively you'll have to relink to your media assets, the bits of chewing gum in this illustration, and then everything will work hunky-dory. Now my personal preference, I did start off sort of doing this type of thing, but what I would typically find is I would leave an asset on the SSD drive, the original SSD drive, and have forgotten to carry it over to my archive drive or whatever drive I'm copying things off to. And then what I might do is completely erase this drive. I've completely then lost all my assets. It freaks out. It's like, the Final Cut Pro is sort of saying, where on earth is everything? And you've lost that asset basically because you've deleted it in effect. So my preference these days is to do something completely different. So let me just show you what I like to do. So we've got our SSD drive here again. I then create a folder within the Finder and call it the deliverable name of the project, the client project name. So it could be Circus 01 or what have you. I then create a library And then what I do is when I import things, I select copy to library. And what that does is, say my asset is on my SSD drive, maybe we've got an asset in the folder that I've been sort of organized enough to put it in there. But as soon as you click copy to library, what that then does is put all the media assets within the library container, and it basically locks it in there. Now actually it will leave the assets in place as well, but the advantage to this is that as soon as you bring another SSD drive onto the picture and you want to move your project over, it's all fine. You can open up your library and all the media is linked because it's all contained within the library itself. So just wanted to do that quick illustration because it is an incredibly important principle to understand in Final Cut Pro, especially when you're wanting to archive projects off, wipe hard drives, clear things up. You don't want to be missing media, you don't want to lose things. You want to, in 2 years time, if you keep things that long, to be able to open up a Final Cut library and everything's in there hunky-dory, it's all linked. There's no sort of nonsense with trying to relink media.
Bonus tip: click Command Shift R in Final Cut Pro to find out where a particular media asset is stored on your drives.
Just in closing, say you have, you've created a library and you're thinking, you know what, John, you're making a lot of sense tonight. I have, my library's a mess. I've got files on my SSD drive. I might have another file on another SSD drive. It's going to be absolutely messy when I come to archive things off. Do not fear, there is a quick solution to this. If you go to File and then Consolidate Event Media, that will save your bacon. It will put all the media assets from wherever they are, whether they're on another hard drive, into your library straight away within a click of a button. Now it will increase the file size of your library and you might want to delete the assets off of the other locations, and what it will do is it will put everything within your media library, so then you can copy that wherever you like and you haven't lost your assets. So to wrap up, remember chewing gum when you're creating your Final Cut Pro libraries, because that can mean life or death when it comes to saving projects properly. As I say, you don't want to come back in 3 years and completely have lost all your work because that particular media asset has disappeared. So if this video has been helpful, I hope it has, please do remember to hit the like and the subscribe button. That would be much appreciated, and I look forward to catching you in the next video. Bye for now.
Brighten my day up like the sunrise. I've waited all my life for a moment like this. For a moment. Is it true that there's a chance it could be all mine? Just the thought itself that makes me anxious.
Hello! So when you're using Final Cut, remember to chew chewing gum. That's right, people. Chewing gum is important when it comes to Final Cut Pro. And that's a wrap.